Okay.
Baku Live is back, day 2. Today Memorial Day. We're going to talk about another veteran from World War II, Cammy Saylor. His given name was Camden, but everybody knew him as Cammy, from Leyden, which is in Advanced Township with Baku and Swal, 3 little towns that were in the township. Swal and Leyden were only not that many miles from Baku, so it's like one group of people really. Everybody knew everybody else, and I knew Cammy. Oh boy, I doubt if I was 10 years old. I was with the mailman, Leon Pettit, and we were delivering the mail to the Leyden store there, and Cammy was there in the store because he helped his folks out there at the store. There was a store, drugstore, a bar, pool hall, operation, some elevators there, the Presbyterian church, and school. There was a country school out there. So it's a going little community there, and the Sailors' store was a big part of that. Cammy's dad had come to Leyden in 1900 from Nitchie. He had a Nitchie connection too, but he'd moved from Nitchie to Leyden and went into business there. Also was a farmer, also had farmland, farm operation going along with the general store and all the other things, gas station, so on. So another Nitchie connection. Now, Cammy, like I say, I met him when I was just young. He was in the store. And then later on, as I became older, I met him when he bought the bar in Leroy, which is, I was born outside of Leroy on the farm, a couple miles. It's kind of between Leroy and Baku. The place that I was born was 5 miles straight north of Baku, straight north. And so we had a lot of connections in Leroy, Baku. But Cammy bought the bar in Leroy in addition to his operations in Leyden. So I got to know Cammy well. In fact, his last days at work, I happened to be on vacation up there, and played pool with Cammy for a couple hours that afternoon, and until his help relief came, and then he left, and he went in the hospital. I believe it was the next day, and he passed away the day after that. He was just a young fellow. He was only 51 years old when he passed away, but he'd been suffering from throat cancer and had lost his voice box and communicated with a writing pad and a pencil, and that's how we'd carry on our conversations. I always considered Cammy, even then, to be just a brilliant man. There wasn't anything that he wasn't well versed on that you could visit with him about, and he was just a good-hearted person. I really thought a lot of Cammy, and most everybody did. Everybody thought he was just a fine gentleman. And anyway, Cammy went into the service in December of 1941, right after Pearl Harbor. 3 weeks after, actually, 28th of December, 3 weeks after the Japanese attacked, he went into the service, and he was shipped to Texas. Joined into the Air Corps, and that was a part of the Army then. The Army Air Corps hadn't been split off into the Air Force yet. But so he was in that, and only 6 weeks later, he was shipped out to the South Pacific, to Australia, and that's where they would start working their way back to Japan. And Cammy was a gunner on one of those planes and he was to receive the Distinguished Flying Cross, which is about the second highest medal you can get after the Medal of Honor, which we're going to talk more about. Henry Gerke, we didn't get through him as much last night as I wanted to, so we're going to talk about him after we visited about Cami. But Henry Gerke got the Medal of Honor. He gave his life for the country. But anyway, Cami received the Distinguished Flying Cross, and Lieutenant General George Kinney wrote his parents about that award to him, and he said that during the period of February 6th to April 26th, 1943, his crew flew 50 missions. 50 missions they flew in that period of time. February 6th to April 26th, 43. And Cami was exceptional in his taking care of his plane and his crew, and they were hit. The plane was hit, but he just carried on with his duties, and they were flying in right next to the enemy where the enemy was embedded, and they were coming in there. He was on 50 missions doing that, and he did such a wonderful job that they gave him this special award, Distinguished Flying Cross. And he also received 4 Bronze Stars in addition to the Distinguished Flying Cross. He too got 4 Bronze Stars for heroism and valor and just being such an excellent combat airman. These medals were given because of their performance in battle. And we were just fortunate to have these young men from our home area up there. Cami was a member of the 5th Air Force, which is one of the most decorated Air Force groups ever. They received so many citations. In fact, Cami got 2 presidential citations as well. So he earned his awards, but he didn't do it for the valor or anything else. Cami was just a humble man. He didn't talk about it, and the only way you would find out about it is after he died, really, and all of this information became available. Some of it had been in the papers way back when he was discharged in 1945. But Cami was an outstanding sailor, and airman, outstanding airman. So he had 4 Bronze Stars, a Distinguished Flying Cross, presidential citations, served in one of the most decorated air units in the history of the Air Force. I don't know what else you can say about him. He was terrific, and he was just a humble neighbor. Yes, good-hearted. And he later, after he was discharged, he married Teola Vann, and they had six daughters. He had Kathy and Margaret and Nancy and Tully and Susan and Mary. And Teola was an absolute blessing to Cami. Cami needed Teola, and together they did well. She helped him in the business and helped him personally. It was just great. It was good to see the help that Cami got from Teola. Now, both of his parents were pharmacists. His dad and his mother, they were both pharmacists. So Charles Saylor, when he came over from Nietzsche, he was already a pharmacist. And then he married his wife, and she was also a registered pharmacist. So they both were pharmacists, and they had a drugstore there in Leyden. And who would have ever thought we'd have had a drugstore in Advanced Township? Pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Yeah, and there was a couple of elevators in Leyden too. Now, in the present day, there isn't anything left at Leyden. You wouldn't know the town existed, except there's a large boulder on the south side of the highway that has Leyden written on it. But the Leyden that I knew was on the north side of the road. So I don't know how the rock got placed, but anyway, it's that's all that's left is the name on a boulder of the town that was Leyden. So I'm just going to check my notes here. As I mentioned, Cammy had lost his voice through cancer, and that's eventually what took his life. And just as Dick was legally blind, and Dick Trenbeth, we talked about him yesterday, and Cammy had lost his voice, and he had communicated through written notes. So sometimes bad things happen to good people. And we just need to thank the Lord for each day we have. Give him the glory for all he's done for us. So let me just glance here at my notes about Cammy. Like I say, he died young, 51 years old from cancer. And he was just a wonderful man. Anybody that knew Cammy just thought the world of him. So now I want to refer back to Henry Gerke. Henry was in the class of 1940 with Dick Trenbeth, and Gerke went into the Marines, became a member of the Marine Corps, and when he died, he was a PFC, the Marine Corps, and they were fighting on Bougainville, one of the most horrible battles of the Pacific War. All of those war battles in the Pacific on these islands were horrendous. Not only because of the enemy, but because of malaria and all of the other diseases, dysentery, you name it. So they were in the battle on Bougainville, the Marines, and they were in the foxhole, him and another man, another Marine in his foxhole, and the Japanese had just kept moving closer and closer until they were like 15 feet away. And they were just heaving grenades into the foxhole. And so Henry Gerke told his partner in the foxhole, he said, and his partner had a better rifle than Henry had. So Henry told him, you take care of the shooting and I'll get rid of the grenades. And so that's what they did. One to drop in and Henry would throw it out. Well, one of them he didn't get to in time, and he jumped on it. He jumped on top of that grenade and gave his life for his partner there, so that the partner could continue fighting. And the partner in the foxhole with him survived the war, and that's how we learned of what happened in that foxhole. And Henry, without hesitation, jumped on that grenade and gave his life. He was 3 days past his 21st birthday. 21 years and 3 days. And he was cited with the Medal of Honor. And his mother went to Washington, D.C. and received that medal posthumously for her son. So, Pembina County, Niche, Layden, Advanced Township had some good fighting men, and we're just grateful for them. This is Memorial Day today. Last time we talked about Dick Trenbeth. Today we talked about Cami Saylor, Henry Gerke. These are three of the most decorated veterans from Pembina County from World War II. I haven't heard of any others that may have received more decorations than that, but these are certainly three outstanding veterans from the Second World War. And as we go along with Baku Live for I don't know how long it'll be, but on these days when we celebrate Memorial Day, Veterans Day, 4th of July, if we have some others we want to talk about, we will do that on those times. Now on Wednesday night this week, I'm going to share about my time working for Lester Hughes at Baku. He was a neighboring farmer. He lived just outside of town, about a half a mile. And we were only about a half a mile from their place too. But when I was a kid, Lester talked to my dad if I could go work for him on the farm, because I wasn't very old. But I'd been working on farm for several years already with Dad. And, and I was born on the farm there with Grandpa Frank and Daddy farmed together, and I was born on that place. And so I was around that machinery all my life. But I had a chance to go and get paid on a farm, go work on a farm, get paid. That was different. So we'll talk about that some on Wednesday night. So God bless you and thank you for listening in tonight. We're getting ready for a storm here. It's supposed to be a bad one coming through.